Hey guys, as you can see, I'm not in our classroom today because we're not supposed to leave our homes. So our videos for the time being will be from here in my apartment. So welcome to my home. Um, Today's math lesson is lesson 92. You can find it in your math book starting on page 584, 585. Mostly 585 is when you're going to want to look at it. If you remember a while back, we talked about different shapes. A triangle has 3 sides, quadrilateral has 4 sides, pentagon has 5 sides, and on and on and on. Well, today we're going to talk about specifically different types of quadrilaterals, shapes with 4 sides. Usually you think of a shape with 4 sides and you think square. Well, there's a lot of different types of quadrilaterals, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So on page 585, you're given at the top the different types of quadrilaterals. Our first one is a parallelogram. A parallelogram is a quadrilateral with 2 pairs of parallel sides. There's lots of different ways a parallelogram can look. So here's an example. I know the drawing's not the best, but it's the best I can do right now. So if you notice, these sides are parallel and these sides are parallel, meaning if they were to continue going on forever, they would never cross. So it has to have 2 pairs of parallel sides. Not one set, not two that are parallel, 2 sides, but 2 pairs of parallel sides, meaning these 2 have to be parallel and these 2 have to be parallel. There's different types of parallelograms. A square is a parallelogram, what you would normally see, because these 2 sides are parallel and these 2 sides are parallel. So that's a parallelogram. The next one is a trapezoid. Actually, rewind a little bit more about parallelograms. If you look at the top of 585, it tells you that figures A, B, C, and D each have 2 pairs of parallel sides. So all 4 of them are parallelograms. So that's, if you look at those in your book, you can see those. Next is a trapezoid. A trapezoid is a quadrilateral with exactly 1 pair of parallel sides. So if you look at figure E, it's the only one at the top of your page. It's the only one that's not a parallelogram. It's a trapezoid because it only has 1 pair of parallel sides. I'll show you. So if you notice, these 2 lines, these sides are parallel, meaning they'll never cross. But these 2, if they were to continue going, they're going to cross eventually, so they're not parallel. So it's a trapezoid. A trapezoid has only 1 pair of parallel sides. Next up, we have a rectangle. A rectangle is a special type of parallelogram that has 4 right angles. So it has to have all the 2 pairs of parallel sides, so it's still a parallelogram, but also it has 4 right angles. All the corners are square corners. So figures C and D are both rectangles, even though if we look at D, we normally think square, but a square is actually a type of rectangle. So this is a rectangle. And so is that. They're parallelograms and they're rectangles. Our next one to talk about is a rhombus. A rhombus is another type of parallelogram, but its sides have to be equal in length. So figures B and D are both rhombuses. So B is not a rectangle. It's a parallelogram and a rhombus. But it's not a rectangle or a square because it doesn't have the right angles. No, it's not as good as the one in your book, but it's you can see it's not straight. It doesn't have square corners. The sides are mostly the same length, but the one in your book is better. So it's a parallelogram and a rhombus, but all four sides have to be the same. And then the last thing we have to talk about is a square. A square is a parallelogram and a rhombus and a rectangle. It has to have two pairs of parallel sides, four right angles, and all sides have to be the same length. So that's a square. So angle D, it has the most names associated with it. Parallelogram, a rhombus, a rectangle, and a square. It's all those things. So let's look at the examples toward the bottom of 585. Example 1 says, which of these quadrilaterals is not a parallelogram? So I'll attempt to draw these. So if you notice, remember a parallelogram has to have two pairs of parallel sides. F, check. G, check. H, nope. I, check. So H is the only one of these that is not a parallelogram. All right, example 2 says draw two parallel line segments of different lengths, then form a quadrilateral by drawing two line segments that connect the endpoints. What type of quadrilateral did you make? So we'll draw our line segments of different lengths. Now I'm going to connect them. So, is this a parallelogram? No, because these two sides are not parallel. So it's a trapezoid. It has one pair of parallel lines only. So it's a trapezoid. Example 3, if you look at it, turn the page to 586, says which of the following quadrilaterals has sides that are not parallel or perpendicular? Well, let's look at them. So A is a square. It says the opposite sides are parallel and the adjacent sides are perpendicular. So they are parallel and perpendicular. B, the opposite sides are parallel and the adjacent sides intersect, but they're not perpendicular. C, none of the lines are parallel or perpendicular. And D, one pair of opposite sides is parallel and another side is perpendicular to the parallel side. So C is the only one that has sides that are not parallel or perpendicular. Example 4 says describe the angles in each of the quadrilaterals in example 3. So figure A is a square, meaning it has 4 right angles. Figure B is a parallelogram. It has 2 acute angles and 2 obtuse angles. The acute angles are the skinnier, smaller ones. The acute angles are the wider ones. Sorry, the obtuse angles are the wider ones. The acute are the skinnier ones. Figure C is a quadrilateral. It has 4 sides. It has 2 obtuse angles and 2 acute angles. The obtuse ones are the wider ones, wider than 90 degrees, and the acute are smaller than 90 degrees. And figure D is a trapezoid. It has 2 right angles, and you can see those because it shows you that they're right angles with the square corners, and 1 acute angle and 1 obtuse angle. So for your lesson now, it's your turn to do some stuff. I want you to look around you in your house, in your room, wherever you are, and find some quadrilaterals and describe them. For example, this whiteboard is a parallelogram and a rectangle. The TV, same, parallelogram and a rectangle. So find a few of those things in your house, you know, a door, a book, a bookshelf, anything, and then just write them in the comments on the video part of this. Just comment on the quadrilaterals you find and describe them. Now you're going to do the lesson practice on your own, A through F, which is on 587 and 588. A through F, do those on your own. Have someone check them for you, make sure you're getting it. Then you're doing the independent work, and I don't remember if it's even or odd, so give me 1 second to remember what I said. I'll just check on here real quick, and you can check too. You're doing the odd problems, starting on 588 through 590. Sorry, this video was a little longer, but I wanted to go through each of the different types of quadrilaterals so you could really see them. So use your book, check back to it. If you have any questions, let me know.